identifying or approaching potential survivor interviewees, you have to be very clear about what your motivations are and what their motivations are. If you are doing a legal deposition, it's very clear who you need to talk to. You need to talk to the person who was assaulted, and you need to ask them very specific questions, and that person probably knows that, or you need to explain that thoroughly. If you're talking to a survivor in the context of a human rights story, then you do not need that many details. In other words, you really need to understand what it is that you need from this person, and that person needs to understand very clearly what you need and why you need it.
It is also incredibly important to anticipate and contemplate whether this person may end up being a witness in a criminal case for the crime that they have suffered, because either before giving a statement to an investigator or a prosecutor, or after having a video of this person released in public may impact on their status of a witness.
Many people will share their story, but it is a process of getting ready to that place. So I would definitely initially seek out people who want to talk. If you yourself, as an interviewer or journalist, has your own story that you could foreground to that person and say, you know, I've been through this as well. You know, it's not the same, but I know where you're coming from, or this happened to someone close to me. Just letting them know that you have some kind of understanding of what sexual assault and sexual trauma is.
It is always best to first identify a possible group or association to which they belong that shares common experience or is acting on their behalf, so that in the communication with the group or representatives of the group, you can actually communicate your intent, communicate what the project is about, and after establishing a relationship, then identify individual survivors who would be most willing, most able to speak, and most comfortable to speak.
The degree to which people are comfortable talking about their trauma may vary over time. For some people, when it's fresh and it's there, they may be more at ease. For other people, they may want to wait till they feel more controlled and more in control of their memories and are able to sort of talk about it with more perspective. So it really is looking back at something instead of reliving it.
Trust building is extremely important for the person being interviewed and the person interviewing. So in order to create a relationship of trust, the interviewer should take time, focus on the person, keep eye contact, listen properly to what the person has to say, and keep in mind that the survivor of sexual crimes or torture is undergoing tough time. It's a painful experience to talk again about something traumatizing. So the interviewer should know that the person is making probably a huge effort sharing this information again, and maybe for the first time.
Because sometimes we are talking to people who we don't know. You don't know the person, you don't know where he came from. And if he doesn't explain to you the purpose of what he's doing, you can't talk. You can't trust him. Where did you come from? From which organization do you work? What are you going to do really with this? And it is dependent on the survivor. Will he talk or not?
I think what's most important for a survivor and interviewer to talk about in advance of an interview is to remind the survivor that they are in control of this interview. So, you know, the process of the act of rape is the kind of thing where the person feels like they have no control. So the last thing you want is to put them in that same situation in an interview.
I think some of the things that should be discussed together as for the interviewer and the survivor are personal boundaries, not only for the survivor, but I think also for the interviewer.
The interviewer and survivor should discuss the goal of the video, who the audience is going to be, how it's going to be distributed. Let them know that they may bring a support person along with them, and let them know that you will provide them with some questions prior to, if at all possible, and also let them know that there is an editing process so they don't feel pressure to not make mistakes or stumble over their words. That's very important.
I think, the more comfortable they are with talking about the interview itself before interview day, the better. I think it's great for the survivor to really understand their place in the interviewer's initiative. I think they should know, where the interview is going to be held, what the setting is going to be, even something small as what time of day. And I think too what's important is that the survivor feel very comfortable with who will be asking the questions, how many other people will be present, and even small things like the gender of all the people that could be around on interview day.
Yeah, semafambira ataita nenyaya sexual violence, kazhinji mukadzi vanowanzonzwirana nemurume kumurume. Vanogona kutya kana kutaura mawedzi, kuti ndakaitwa so, achinyatsotaura deep sezvazviri, than murume munhu anogona kutya, kana kuti mukadzi murume anogona kutya. Asi vakataura kuti mukadzi ari kubvunza mukadzi agoni kurwa neani. That means kana kutanga kusangana nemunhu. Asi kana kuti vanhu vasangana for a long time havatyisi, asi kana kutotanga first day iri kusangana nemunhu, vanoda mukadzi murume kumurume.
I think certainly letting a survivor choose who they feel comfortable speaking to, whether it be a man or a woman, whether it be a queer person, if you have that opportunity to offer that, that's great. My experience, it's generally like the tone that you bring. I've conducted interviews as a female, as an assault survivor, with a male photographer, and it's been very successful because he's very gentle, he's not imposing himself, he's very respectful. I think that's always, the behavior. But giving the person the option, if they can choose, that's great too.
All of those things are really important to making the survivor feel very comfortable so that by the time they sit down and the lights go on and the camera's rolling, they know exactly what they're doing and why they're there. And so if there are any nerves or if there are any second thoughts, that comfort can help to sort of assuage any hesitation they might have about participating.